Hey developers, today we are creating an app using Vue.js and Tailwind 2.0, and we're going to show you how easy it is to do that. Hey, so you could see the app in action right here. You can see this is just the most popular movies listed, but if I type something in, I don't know, like which, it just brings up movie posters for whatever movie I type in here, and it displays it. So it's just really simple. I can hit enter here or hit the search button, and it just displays it. So really simple, but I just want to show you how easy it is to create a web page like this using Tailwind and Vue together. Hey, and before we get too far, let me have a quick word from our sponsor, and that's my course. Today, if you're watching, is Black Friday, so I have a really cool course called Vue 360 Solo. It's a 6-week program. It's completely self-paced, where you can go through and learn the essentials of Vue.js. And right now, I'm having a 50% off sale, so it's a really good deal. Now, this course is released every single week, but you don't need an instructor. It basically, you can watch the videos. They have assignments every week, and I also have email communication if you need help from me. But we go through everything from Vue lifecycle components and Vue 3, Tailwind CSS, Vuetify, Vite, VuePress. It has it all. So this is a really fun course. I've actually taught this over to 100 people over the year, and I just keep on getting it better and better. I think the course keeps on getting better and better. I'm really excited to offer it for a limited time sale. So check it out. I'll put a link in the course in the description and also in the comments below. All right, so with that out of the way, let's see if we can go ahead and create this. So let's take a look at the code here to begin. So I went ahead and off screen, I went ahead and created a brand new app. Now in this case, I'm using Nuxt, but you can certainly use Vue.js right off the bat if you wanted to use Vue CLI. But to create a new app, you just do, if you're using Nuxt, you do npx create Nuxt app and then the app name. And then it's going to ask you a series of questions, and one of them will ask if you want to use Tailwind, and you could hit enter there. And that will go ahead and create your app for you. Now, one thing I realized when I set that up, that it doesn't, as of this recording, Tailwind 2 isn't included in the setup for Tailwind for Nuxt right now, using the Nuxt Tailwind plugin. So if that's the case, you actually can just copy and paste. I'll put this link in the description, this npm install. And this installs post CSS 7 and the latest version of Tailwind, so that way you can use Tailwind 2 in your Nuxt app. So that's just a quick tip on using that. So after I did that, I'm going to go ahead and run dev on this. I went ahead and I just deleted out everything inside this index file just to make it a little cleaner, and I deleted some of the styles out. So once it gets started here, we can see what an empty project looks like. And I went ahead, you can see these URLs here. So before this video started, I went ahead and added these URLs in here. This is a API called the MovieDB. You can use it with an API key to grab poster and movie information. So I thought it'd be fun just to use this API service inside this video. Okay, so here is our app on localhost 3000, and not much to see. It just says hello world. Now, the first thing I want to do is to make it kind of look like our sample app here. I want to change the background to purple. So one easy way to do that is I'm going to go back to my Finder here, and inside layouts, see inside Nuxt, you have this very particular sections, different folder layout in Nuxt, and one thing that you can have is different layouts. Now, the default layout for the whole app is inside this layouts folder, and it's called default.vue. So I can add in global styles in here. I'm just going to, just for the sake of it, I'm not going to use Tailwind here. I'm just going to do a background here and make it purple for our HTML elements. And this is, you can see here, they have some global elements in here. And I don't think I need these button green, button gray, button gray. So I'm going to delete that while I'm at it. I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back, and cool. So now I have a big, ugly, purple web page here that does nothing. So we have, baby steps here. All right, so the first thing we want to do, let's see if we can create this little poster image here. So first I like to do this. I like to create a little bit of padding. So I have this main here. I'm going to add a class, and I'm going to use padding 10 here. I'm going to take a look. Okay, so I got a little bit of padding now on the left and right hand side. All right, so one other thing you can do, by the way, I have a extension installed called Tailwind CSS and IntelliSense. So I can actually, when I'm inside any index file here or any file in Vue, I could just type in text dash and hit control space, and I can see everything I can enter in. This makes things a lot easier. You can even see what it's doing. So if I wanted to add this small text or make this text large, I could change it right there. So keep that in mind as you're going through this tutorial, that you can use that. One thing, I had a problem with this extension at first. Make sure you add a tailwind.config.js file to the root folder of your VS Code, and make sure you have the VS Code open to that folder. Otherwise, it won't work correctly. And if you do add it, make sure you then stop and restart the Chrome browser or the VS Code app. Otherwise, it won't work. All right, so we still don't have too much here, but let's start adding in some things. First, I want to kind of use a test image just to see how it would look like. And we'll use this first before we use the API to grab all the images. So easy way to do that is we're going to use a data object here. And we're going to return back an object. And we're just going to call it image test. And I hard-coded these URLs in here off screen just so that I can have them. I didn't want to look them up during the middle of this tutorial. So here they are. We're using the themoviedb.org API. It requires an API key, but it's really easy and free to use, and it's a great way if you're learning. So I would check this out, this moviedb.org. And then I also download, I actually added a test image as well so that we can test. Cool, so I'm going to save it here. And the first thing I want to do inside this main is I'm going to create a div here. And then inside this div, I'm going to create an image. And then probably also I'll have like a title and a span. And we're going to add some styles to these to make them look a little better. And actually, I want to kind of surround this whole thing by another div, which should be fine. Just move it up. And I'll make sure I make it look a little nicer. But all I care right now is about this div here. And I'm going to add a little background to this. So I'm going to put width of 64 as the width of this. And I want to make this purple. And let's see here. Oops, I got to make sure I put class equals width 64. And then I'm going to have a background purple. And I don't know, I'll do purple 300. And then I'll put a little bit of margin. I'll round it. And well, we'll just leave it. Yeah, well, let's add a top margin too. And then so in our image source here, I can actually do basically a bind here with a colon. And this will do our image test. So let's see what it looks like just by making those changes. Cool, so we have here is our image. And it looks pretty good. So if I wanted to, I can mess around with these margins, maybe make it a little smaller, have a little bit smaller margin. But I don't know, I'll leave it at 3. And then it's this H3 tag. I'm just going to put in test title, and span will be the date, some date, 04/12/1999. I don't know. And I could make this a little bit nicer too. I'm going to add in text XL, which will make it larger, and I'll do font extra bold. And for this date, I think I'll leave it as is. So let's see what it looks like. Cool. So this is kind of the format I want to have it look like. This will be, we'll use the API to grab all the images, and then they'll just be displayed on this page, and we'll have this text here. That was pretty simple. Now another thing we want to do is we want to have a form. We're not going to have an action here, but we'll add in something later for that. And then inside this form, if I can type right, we're going to have another div, and I'm going to put the class on this to be flex, and I'm going to justify center it, and I'm going to do mauto, and then I'm going to have an input here. I'm going to call the placeholder, I'm going to call it search, because I can do capital search. And let's see what that looks like first. Okay, so here's our search right here. It's pretty simple, but let's make it look a little nicer. So in this input, I'm going to put a class on it. I'm going to call it rounded MD. So that'll make the corners a little rounded. And then on larger screens, I want to do width to 12th. And I'm going to make the background gray 100. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, yeah, so all right. I think I'm going to need to make it a little bigger. So I'm going to put in a PL-4. That'll actually have padding around it. Okay, well, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's okay. Now this button, I want to add a button too. And the button's going to say search. And I'm going to make this a little different. I'm going to do background blue. I don't know, let's say 300. I'm going to put a padding 2 around it. I'm going to round the borders. I always do a lot of rounded. That's like one thing I do all the time. I'm going to put a margin left of 4. I'm going to make the text white. And I'm uppercase it. I guess I should have just wrote out search uppercase, but all right, yeah, okay, I like that a little better. Search is here, looks good. All right, so I think we have a lot of the CSS in using Tailwind. It's that was pretty simple to add in. So now we'll look at some of the Vue parts. And once again, I could change this if I wanted to. Instead of a rounded medium, I could do rounded full, and it'll be just a circular button. So if we do that, now, well, I get as much as a rounded can with the word in there, search. I could also, I don't know, I could play around with the margins. Maybe I want to make this a little bigger. Maybe make it P4. Okay, yeah, so it's a little bigger, and I think that's too big. I could also make the text bigger too. Yeah, so that something like that, and then change the margins to 3 maybe. Yeah, I mean that's definitely it stands out now, I think. I can also mess around with the placeholder text a little bit more. I did the margin left 4 on it. I guess I could play around with that. All right, well let's continue on. Let's add some Vue functionality to this. So first thing we want to do is when the app loads, I want it to download a list of movies. So we're going to use the lifecycle hooks for that, and we're just going to use mounted. You could use created. I think mounted makes more sense here. I mean, if you disagree, leave a comment below, because we want to wait until everything's up and running. And so I'm going to use fetch. And if you don't know, this is like a built-in way we can connect to different sites and different APIs. And first, we're gonna grab this pop URL. This is the popularity URL. I'm gonna just put this in here, pop URL. That's kind of a global there. And we'll do a then. And this is going to have a, I don't know what, I always call it info. And then we're just do info.json. And we're gonna chain another then in here. And then in this next one, we're going to have a val come out of it. I guess we can call it movies. Maybe that would make more sense. And then inside this movies, I'm going to console log it just to make sure it looks okay. But I want to actually add it to something. So I'm going to create a new thing here called images. And it's just going to be an empty array. And then I'm going to have images equal movies here. So let's see here. If I go into the inspect and look inside the console, I got back this object. Looks like it has an array of objects here, 20 of them in here. All right, so it looks like I did receive a bunch of information back. Cool. So really all I care about right now is the title and the poster path, because I want to show the poster path and the date that it was released, which is called, I think inside here, release date, right here. So these are the 3 I care about. So I'm going to do a quick map on this here, and then do that way. So instead of this dot images equal movies, I'll do movies, and I'll do movies.map, and this will have a movie. Each individual movie will be inside the map here. And actually, instead of doing a map, I'm going to do a reduce, because what I want to do is, I've noticed when I was playing around with this API that some things actually, some movies didn't come with any posters. I just want to ignore those and not even display them. So first I'm going to do this if movie.poster path doesn't exist, so I'll put it not here. So if it comes back as like a null, then I'm just going to return. Actually, we'll do return ACC. So we're going to have an accumulator here. So the first one is the accumulator, then the actual individual movie. Else, what we're going to do is I'm going to push, and actually I don't want it as an object. I'm going to have it as an array. I'm going to push, and I'm going to grab the poster, and I'm going to do a little bit of string interpolation here. So I know I have this thing called BG, and so if you looked back at what we received back for this poster path, this actually doesn't include the full path of the poster, but I happen to know that path, which I grabbed before we started this video, and that's this image.tbd.org, and that's just looking through the documentation. So I can do something like this. I can do BG, and then I can grab the rest of it, which would be movie.poster path. So that should be the first one. And then I want to grab the date, which will be, in this case, just movie.release date. And the last one, gotta make sure we have a comma here, should be the title, and that'll be movie.title. So if I did that right, and then I'll just return ACC. So if I did that right, this will go through and reduce this response back to only ones that include with posters, and it'll create something that has this poster data and tile, and let's return this ACC. And we'll have that hooked up to images, and we'll just make sure it works. And it'll look ugly, but we can just do images here and see what it looks like. So the reloaded. Okay, so we have an empty box here, so I'm going to restart it one more time. Oops, I think I know what I did wrong. Actually, if I looked at the results, it's under results, RESULTS. So I forgot to put results in. So I will fix that. So it will be movies.results.reduce. So we'll see that again. Okay, cool. So here I've gotten back a bunch of information here with titles, names, poster. Cool. So it looks like it worked correctly. You can see there. It's kind of hard to see, but it's there. So now I should be able to V4 through it and make sure I have everything I need. So first, I left this kind of wrapping div here for a purpose, and because I wanted to do this with flex. So I'm going to do flex here. I'm going to do a flex wrap, so it wraps, and I'm going to do justify around, so it looks a little nicer. And then on this V4 here, in this div here, I'm going to put the V4, and that'll be image of images. And to be good citizens, we always have to put a key here, and I'll just put image.title as the key. I could put something more unique, but I only grabbed those three things. And instead of having this image test in here, this is going to be image.poster. So it's something easier to remember. And then instead of here, this will be image. I can put double brackets here, image.title. And right here would be image.date. So let's see if we did that right. Cool. So now it looks like we have every single one of our images. Nice. And we have the titles and we have the dates that they came out. So the next thing to do is to get this search working. And so what we're going to do is create a methods. And in this methods, we're going to create something called search, if I can spell it right, SEARCH. And in the search, we're going to do a few things. So first, I want to actually add one more component here, and I'm going to call it, I don't know, a search term, I suppose. Search term. And I can actually use vModel here to bind it to this input, so I can easily access it, search term. So now anytime I do the search term, I can just grab it. And now inside the search, I'll do first a few things. First, if this dot search term is like empty, equals nothing, then I'll just return, because I don't want to do anything if there's nothing in the search return. Otherwise, I'll need to do another fetch. So inside this fetch, once again, we're going to use some of the URLs I had up top. It's called search URL, I believe is what I called it. Yep, search URL. And then we need to add in the search term that we got. And we just set that up through the V model, so that's this dot search term. And we'll do, we'll do dot then. And then we'll have some value coming back from here. And I'll just do val.json. And then we'll then it again, because we'll get another value, which should be the results. I should call it movies. And this movies, we kind of need to do the same thing we did over here with this reduce that we added in. So we can kind of do a little bit of refactoring. We sort of want to take all the code that's inside this reduce and put it in its own function. So let's do that real quickly. So I'm going to create something called a parse image response, and I'll grab images. And now I just need to return the image information that we get. So we're going to assume that this is exactly what we need here. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put it right here. Instead of calling movies, actually, you know, let's be consistent here. I'll call this movies. And move it up here. Okay, so we'll return the movies results reduce. So this should return our movies here. Let's see if it works. So this is going to be this dot images equals this dot parse image response, and we'll pass in movies. And to get connected, we needed two things. In this form here, we're going to do it at submit. This is like a v-on, and we'll do a search here and type in right. And then also in this button, we'll add a click handler. So at click, we'll do search as well. So that way, anytime you do a form submission or you click the button, it runs search, and it should, if I did this right, it should run this. It'll check the search term, and then it will run this search term, this URL, and it'll do it. And I'll just do a console log in case I mess something up. Movies. All right, so we're back here. I'm going to save everything. I'm going to type in which. Cool, so it seemed to work. I got back response here. Here's our results, and it updated everything as I expected. And I believe it only puts the first, the first 30 results, or 20 results, that is. So that's why I only see 20. And also, since we use flex, you can see as I make this smaller, it's wrapping correctly, so I don't have to do anything differently, and I have the margins and the tops pretty close together, so it looks good. Awesome. So let's see, did we need to do anything else? Oh, to be good citizens, we probably should delete this out. So I'm going to take all this code and delete it. And then this should equal this dot parse image response, and I'll pass in movies here too. So I don't have duplicated code everywhere. And so if I refresh it, cool. So yep, they're all still working as expected. And if I type in Apple, here's Apple movies, and it came through. All right, so that's it. That's pretty much it. I'll put this code up on a gist somewhere so you guys can take a look at it. It's pretty simple. I'm just gonna put this one page on there. But you can see how simple this was. In a very short amount of time, we created a API talking to a movie search. We're able to do a little bit of magic by reducing it and making it a little bit easier to work with. And we didn't have to create any CSS classes because we have all these really nice utility classes with Tailwind. So let me know what you think in the description below. Thanks.